Ladies and gentlemen, a famous writer once said, "A nation can't be built in the absence of peace." And indeed, it's true. So peace begins with you and I. Let us always make sure that it is something key aspect that we're working up to, and to have a better home or a stronger nation, we need to make sure that we check one or two wrongdoings that we do and make it to the right side of the other. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. And of course, it is a talk time show, and due to an inspirational or something that you should know is motivational, is of course in the building, and something you need to know that it is Juba Echo Information for Empowerment, and I'm Rita Ilwa as usual, and I'm joined up with a guest that we shall be interacting and of course knowing more of what is yet to come. And remember, you can also join us in all social media platforms, that is Juba Echo on Facebook, not forgetting on YouTube, Juba Echo, and for feature stories, of course, that is at www.jubaecho.com. And yes, on board with me today is, of course, as I mentioned earlier on, famous writer. And ladies and gentlemen, allow me welcome in the building a writer that goes, and for a book that you should be checking out through is this, and that is The Vision of the Young Libra. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, allow me welcome on board. You're welcome.
Thank you, Madam Rita.
All right. Straight away, we can briefly, and maybe you can introduce yourself or tell us more about you to our audience watching.
Oh, thank you. I want to appreciate you for having me here today. I am Domike, Adong, jiet, and I'm a young writer. And in my book and my social media platforms, I've talked about peace and then freedom of our people. And then I've also talked about security, which I believe is a key element to reensure that this country goes back to socio-economic reconstruction and make it possible. Well, this is my first book, and I hope more is yet to come. And yeah, that's all I can say for now about myself and about my book. Thank you.
All right, and maybe something we'd say, because when a writer, as you said, you're a young writer, and definitely to come up with content such as this, over 99 pages, by the way, is something that is not easy. So apparently, what is your educational background like?
What?
Educational background. Because,
all right. I mentioned in the preface. I started my school back in 2003 in a missionary school in Rumbek. It's called ECS, Episcopal Church of Sudan, and that's why I started my school. And soon after the CPO signed in 2005, I went to Uganda, where I did my primary education and my secondary education, and I completed my college studies in 2018 December. I've been back to the country, and I felt there's need for me to, talk about the things that bother my countrymen and women, and that's why I came up with this book. Well, a lot of people do believe that in order to write a book, you must be a PhD holder or some level of a high intellectual profile, which I do believe. I wish I don't believe, because writing is a talent, it's a gift from God, and if you know how you can construct the words, I believe you can come up with a content like this. When I wrote this book, I wrote it during the pandemic period, that is 2020, and then I was connected to my editor, who became my editor and my mentor, and he guided me through. So I thought it was a process that was going to last about 3 months maximum, but I realized in the process that it could take longer than that, because the edition took about a year plus, and then my editor recommended that I do more research about the work, and that's how the process has been. It's been, I write and I take back to my editor goes through it and tells me that you still have a lot to do, and it's been a process, and so it lasted about 3 years. It's not something that I just did overnight. Yes, it took me longer than I thought, and I want to say that it has taught me a lot. I've learned a lot in the process. It kept me busy for the last 4 years, because I was not studying, but it has kept me up to date regarding information and what is happening about global politics, geopolitics, and what is happening in the country, because I became a researcher in the process. And I want to thank my editor, Gabriel Joseph Shadar, wherever he is, for making me an author, because without him I wouldn't have completed this work. Yeah.
All right, and definitely, ladies and gentlemen, you had that clear. And something you need to know is that, of course, and I do repeat, you need to check out that book, and you need to follow up. That is Domike Adong. Yes, yes, for more of that. And he's the author of this particular book, that is The Vision of a Young Liberal. And something you should know is that in case you have a question, you can leave it into the comment section. That is, our team will get to that and remember, you can also like or share or comment. At the same time, you can tell a friend that, of course, it is a Juba Echo, information for empowerment. And something that I would ask is, briefly, what is your life, or actually your life journey as a young South Sudanese?
Well, I lost my father when at a tender age in 2009. Well, he died in service. He worked in the government of Sudan. He's a war veteran, like I mentioned in the book. And so before he passed on, life was really sweet and moving smoothly. But after I lost my dad, of course, it has to be challenges that are faced by every orphan elsewhere in the world. And so I want to say that it has not been easy without a dad, but I want to thank my mother for the efforts that she put in to educate us and for not, subjecting to the, the challenges that arose after my father's death. So, and I want to thank also my relatives that have been there to support us in the process. So it's not been easy because, at a certain point after the civil war in 2013, there was a lot of economic crisis in the country. I believe this economic crisis have made us suffer, not my family alone, but everybody else in the country. And so, my life story resonates to every other suffering South Sudanese. So my life history has been ups and downs, but I have not given up. I'm here and I'm still going, and I hope to achieve more. Thank you.
All right, and besides, you said that it took you over 4 years. Yes?
3 years.
3 years
Yes.
to make sure that at least this book is out there for people.
Yeah.
Okay, when we look at the vision, it's the vision of a young liberal.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to someone out there who is actually, maybe will not get a clear vision of it, a clear idea of it? What does it mean, and why specifically that title?
Okay. Thank you. Liberalism, this is a geopolitical topic, and when I was writing about the book, as I mentioned earlier, I wasn't thinking about that title. But when I finished the book and I saw what I'm really advocating for, I realized this is liberalism. I'm trying to be a liberal. And so a liberal is an advocate for a moral philosophy, political and social philosophy, that do advocate for sorry for that. That do advocate for civil liberties, concern of the governed, security reforms, yes, economic reforms, economic equality. Okay.
All right, and because for someone out there, maybe it's just hearing the vision of a young liberal, what are the key aspects or what are the key points at which someone can actually take, that is from this important book, that is the vision of a young liberal? Because in one way or the other, there are a lot of books are in the market, yes, and very many of them come up, and very many writers come up each and every day. They put something out there. So what are the key takeaways in which somebody or most of our population should take out of this book, the vision of a young liberal?
Okay, first and foremost, the biggest problem is our reading culture. I do believe if people are going to read my book, they will see the message I'm trying to carry. In the book, I talked about security, reinforcing security, restoring security in the country, because it is a key element to ensure social and economic reconstruction, to make it more successful in the country. And so, if our leaders and policymakers can read my book and adapt to the new ideas that are in the book, I do believe that we will see the changes that I'm talking about. We will see the reforms I'm talking about. I also advocated for young people to be included in the social and economic affairs and political affairs of this country, because we young people, we have the enthusiasm to work, we have the nationalism, patriotism. I do believe if we are brought into the political sphere of this country, we have new insights that we can bring in the country. We can see young people are already making a difference in the country in the new political dispensation. So I do believe young people have something new to offer, which I've advocated. I've also advocated for women empowerment and including and making them part and parcel of the decision-making board of this country. You see, the capacity that women have, I believe, it can make this country prosper.
Right, and something you should know, ladies and gentlemen, it is 73.7%, that is of the statistics of the youth here in South Sudan, of the population, by the way, that and at least one or two are from the 73.7%. That can be changed, and there can be that peace building, that mandate that can foster more of the peace building in the country. And yes, let us begin this journey together. And something that I would ask is a writer here, an author, is what is unique about your writing? Because as I said earlier on, each and everybody out there is maybe can be sitting there and be like, I can also become a writer or love writer. And do you people categorize it like that? Yes.
Well, to be specific, I don't see anything special about my writing. Maybe what I could say, because I am focusing on things that the majority of people don't want to talk about, you see, because I'm advocating for reforms. There's that fear that is associated with speaking about reforms. Who is this guy talking about reforms? Who is this guy? And people may charge you for any sedition that you are trying to incite violence because you're asking for change. Well, there's nothing special about my writing. I just keep on writing because I do believe I'm not the greatest author. I'm not going to be the greatest author, but I'm saying if my book and my message can go out there and change somebody and have an impact, that makes me feel special, that makes me feel happy, makes me want to do more and more. Yeah.
Right. Maybe to add on into it is that how easy or how difficult was it actually to come up with allow me, ladies and gentlemen, like 95, which is 99-page book?
It wasn't easy, like I mentioned earlier on, because when I first wrote it, it was really a raw work, a manuscript that was lacking a lot of things. And then I was introduced to my editor, who in the process guided me through. And I found myself coming up with that content. It's not like a one-day thing, you see. It was not easier than I thought. And at a certain point, I felt like giving up, but I say that I reached this point, why should I give up? Let me finish what I started, you see. Otherwise, I would have given up, because it's been a process after a process after a process. I write this, the next thing I'm hearing is there's something that is missing, okay? And so it's not been easy. I wouldn't say it's easy, and I wouldn't say it's hard. There's nothing superstitious about writing a book. Anybody can do it. You just have to have the determination, passion, and the desire. If you are led by desire, then you can achieve it. Because I was led by desire that I want my what I'm advocating for to be out there and people get to know it, my ideas. So that's what kept me going, and I envisioned myself that one day I'm going to be an author, and this was been my childhood dream. From back when I was in primary, I used to love writing stories and maybe love letters, of course.
Okay.
And then, I thought maybe, it's now time for me to write about the reforms in my country.
Okay, just a question that I will ask briefly, that is from your book, is that has the prophecy that South Sudan would slip into war because they are incapable of ruling themselves come to pass?
Yeah, when we're approaching independence in 2011, there has been a lot of comments from international community and from Sudan that was giving us independence. A lot of people were saying that South Sudanese are going to slip into war immediately after independence because we lacked a proper governance, we lack proper resolutions to conflicts. And it happened, we had 2011, We were 2 years into post-independence period, and then in 2013 we had a civil war within ourselves, and then it happened in the second phase to 2016. And so I was posing a question that as the purposes of those people who claimed that we would slip into war come to pass, you see, and that's for the audience, that's for the reader to answer, okay? But I've laid facts here. I've not been radical on certain issues because certain issues are very sensitive in our country. For example, the 2013 war and the 2016 war, I haven't talked much about them because they're still very sensitive to us. We are in the process of rebuilding, so we need to initiate more trauma healing programs, reconciliation programs, so that we condone ourselves. We need to forgive. And in the last chapter, I talked about forgiveness as the final resolution to the conflict, because no matter what we do here, no matter the reforms that we talk about, if we don't condone ourselves, if we don't forgive ourselves, we are just making wasteful efforts.
True that.
So it's for the readers and the viewers to answer as the prophecy come to pass.
Okay,
Yes.
the question is, has the prophecy, of course, that South Sudanese would slip into war because they're incapable of ruling themselves, come to pass? That is a question for you, and that one is a food for thought. You can answer that regarding when you want to. Actually, when you read this book, and something I would ask briefly, as you mentioned earlier on, there are some sensitive issues that come living in the country that we don't touch here and there because of other issues and of course security purposes and all that. So as a writer, we understand, or most writers by the way, they go through or they compose or they write, they publish, and that is something more on to educate and to communicate to people, to the masses. So to communicate to the masses. So how do you rate the media, let me say, the media literacy when it comes to a country such as South Sudan?
Well, I would first answer you by asking what's the percentage in the country that has access to media, and I would answer it as being really low, because leave alone the population in Juba. When we go far in the states, we have a majority of our population, local population, they do not have media, access to media. So I would say that for those who have access to media, media literacy is a very good way to pass the message rapidly. So if you want to say something, it's through media, because media has a wider view. It doesn't add up much at the moment. It's not so effective because majority of the people that we want the message to reach do not have access to media. Maybe in the years to come, we hope media literacy will be effective, but for now we will keep on trying and we will keep on going. Yes.
All right, and ladies and gentlemen, as we're going on with the composition, which is almost time, they always say time waits for no man, and indeed it's true. Something like that I would add on, because we spoke of something that is more of, let me say, reading culture, yes?
Yeah.
How can the reading culture of the young be improved? Because we understand some people are just, let me say, biased, yes? By the titles, yes? By the way the book is. The weight at which, if it is too much, if it is over 15, I'm like, a young one will be like, this one is a lot. And basically, how can all this mentality or the reading culture of the young people be improved? Because we understand that they easily not into reading books. They just want something that is easy for them.
Well, it's a good question. Our reading culture as a country is really low. We don't want to read. Somebody's going to buy my book, somebody's going to get my book and feels inspired, but is not going to read the content of the work, and they will not understand it. What I would say, in the book I've talked about education. I analyzed during my research, South Sudan has the least literacy rate in sub-Saharan Africa. That's about 27% of the population has access to education, who can read and write. 27% of the population. That is really a very low figure. So first and foremost, I would say that let us extend our education to majority of our our citizens.
Mm.
And by doing so, I do believe young people are going to read. I talked about what I called a pathological approach, that is reaching the grassroots.
Mm.
By that, how it is applicable here is by going to the young people, the young people starting the elementary schools, and teach them the reading culture. You see, we cannot deny the possibilities in the future. If the current us are not able to read, then why can't we develop the young people that are coming by teaching them to be readers right from a very young age, so that by the time they read their future, it has become a culture in the new generation. Okay, but for now, let us preach. Let us continue to preach about the reading culture. There's a lot to learn from reading non-academic books, because it is a collection of thinkers, different faculties, different expertise. So they come up with something new, and you learn a lot, like philosophy, science, health, everything. Yeah.
Actually, let me say more of that when it comes to the young, of course, when they say authors, writers, novelists, and all these kind of and poets, by the way, they always express themselves, and literally. Security purposes,
Yeah.
living in a country such as South Sudan, a young country like this,
Yeah.
how would you take such situations such as that?
Oh well, I would talk personally, or in general, about writers, because writers are not violent people. These are people who are trying to tell you that do the right thing, and when somebody tells you do the right thing, they're not against you. They want you to do better. So I'm not threatened, because I'm not trying to incite violence. Like I said before, in my book, I'm very specific with what I'm talking about. I said let us reform certain key aspects in the policies that we have, so that we have a better country. You see, I want the best for this country, and I don't think that should be a threat to my life. Okay, and let us give freedom of expression. You see, that is part of a new beginning to prosperity, economic prosperity and political prosperity. Because if I'm not giving you a chance to talk about what is bothering you, you will have a grudge towards me for a very long time. So let me give you the freedom to talk, and that's what we are doing, and that's what we're asking for as writers. And I think I'm not threatened. I'm not threatened about anything, because I'm not inciting anything.
All right, and maybe winding up with the conversation is when we look at a country such as this, or most African countries, we have a big challenge or a big issue that comes to access to information. Yes. So when it comes to access to information, when you look at this book, it is having a broad content. So how, because most people, by the way, they're denied this particular right, which is access to information. So with this, your particular book, how was it, how challenging or how easy was it when it comes to access to information?
Oh, well, I did research on various sites and books, including archives and podcasts online. So I had access to information that I needed to write up this book. I didn't have any challenges. Yes, and I don't think there's any challenge to finding information, because information out there is just a matter about what information that you need. Yeah, but the information that I needed, I got it through Wikipedias, through history books, geography books, through podcasts, online podcasts, and yeah.
Okay, and where do you see yourself in the next few years, or what are your future plans in regards other than this?
Oh, well, I'll continue writing, and all my efforts are focused on my writing career, because right now I have a responsibility to look up to. That is, I have risen professionally as intellectual writer. there comes with a responsibility regarding that. So whatever I'm going to be doing is for to solidify my vision, and I will keep on whatever plan is in alignment with my book. Yeah.
Okay, that is quite nice. Winding up with the conversation, again, a question I would ask in case for someone out there who is a young person, free-minded, wild, and open, would ask, how would I get there? What does it take to be like, of course, Domike?
What it takes courage. First of all, it takes courage, because I believe everybody has an idea. Everybody has a purpose why he's living here in the world, and then you need to first and foremost identify what's your purpose. You see, when you identify your purpose, you work towards it. Now, working towards it will need you to be determined, because there are challenges. There's no easy walk to freedom, like Nelson Mandela said. It is not easy walk to freedom. You are going to face a lot of impediments in the process. You would be less motivated at times. You'll be discouraged. Who is going to listen to me? Like, for example, when I was writing this book, I was filled with these self-doubts. Who's going to listen to me as a young writer? I'm talking about reforms. Who's going to listen to me? Where am I going to get the opportunities that I need? You see, and so I had to, I had to subdue such thoughts in my mind. I was determined. I was passionate, because you have to love what you're doing. Okay, because one element is always going to remain. There's where you feel like the determination is no longer there, but because the love is still there, yeah, you will keep on going. Yeah, and then. Yeah, you have to keep on like that. It's not easy, but I'm not promising it to anybody. It's not easy, but you have to keep on going. You have to be passionate, you have to be determined, you have to be focused, and you have to be disciplined. Yeah, anything that is not in alignment with what you are doing shouldn't interrupt what you are doing. Yes.
All right. What of course should your audience, or those ones in particular watching right now, expect from you that is of current and something more?
Like I said before, I'm working towards solidifying my vision and my purpose. I want to make some of the reforms more visible, and sooner or later there will be launching of new programs that are still in place. Inshallah, like the Muslims say, I hope sooner or later more things can happen. I don't want to promise anybody, because of the time factor. It can take longer than that or sooner than that. Other impediments can also happen, but all I'm saying is that inshallah, I will continue to do more and pursue more, and to make sure that I serve my people in one way or another. Yes.
All right, and the concluding is, of course, that is, how can someone reach out to you or your social media platforms, that is, in regards to this, and how can they get a copy of this?
I'm yet to serve it to libraries, and one will be at the, of course, public universities, because I had produced only a few copies of the book. Well, you can check out my names on Facebook, Domike Adong jiet, my page, and that's where you can contact me. Some of my details are online. You can always contact me, and then we can catch up, and I give you a copy.
All right, what is the message you can give to someone else watching right now as we wind up?
Well, thank you. What I want to say to somebody who's watching out there is that your dreams are valid. Like me, from a very young age, I've always wanted to write. Some of my people who knew me back in the days, others believe in it, others didn't believe in it, but here it is. I am a writer. I've written my first book, and I'm going to write more. I want to say that your dreams are valid, and you are not too young to pursue something, okay, to become an inspiration to many people outside there, and to ask for reforms in the country like I am doing. You are not too young, you can do it, and yes, Almighty God be with you in your pursuit for your dream.
Right, and ladies and gentlemen, of course, with the Top Time Team Show, I just have to say a journey starts, and actually success starts when you have walked or you have a few steps that is you have so far accomplished. And never let anyone tell you too young. Your dreams are way bigger, and you can achieve